All right, so here's another review video. This one for an ILI. I think it's an important one to choose just because ILIs are um, one of those types that doesn't, I guess, get talked about enough. They can be a little bit tricky to type, and they can be one that gets confused for other types or mixed up or whatever. So this was a pretty good one. This is an old one, but still a good one. So we have a nice young, fresh face looking Jack on this one. So let's do it.
Who's very comfortable just letting out your emotivity to the people around you. You kind of keep it very, very reserved and very much to yourself.
Yeah,
But
like
yeah,
yeah, like I kind of like fill people out,
There he is with
Um,
Cliff.
I don't really like open up to a lot of people, but then I can just tell some people are more open-minded than others. And if I open up to some people, they're going to because I have maybe some controversial views on certain topics and whatnot.
Mhm.
So I kind of feel that I'm going to have to debate them,
Mm.
and then how they sort of debate is just emotionally biased. It's just emotional, and they can't understand like a logical debate, and then it's going to be pretty much it's going to be like a pointless debate because no one's going to understand anything, and no one's going to necessarily
Mm.
reach a higher understanding. So I pick and choose who I interact with.
So you notice,
And kind of the demand for you is that the inter.
you noticed already with that obviously he wants to have a logical debate. He wants to discuss things in a rational kind of way. He's not looking for fun. He's not looking for emotional connectivity or bonding or um, trying to just use a practical reason for this kind of conversation. It's more for a rational purpose, but he can anticipate that whoever he's going to talk to isn't interested in that kind of conversation, or it's probably not going to go in that direction. He's anticipating that, projecting where that conversation is going to go. Is it going to work? Is it worth his time? Is it not? Is it going to get overly emotional? I don't want to get into that, right? So it's a good display of NI, a good example of usage of NI to predict where something is going to happen. And it doesn't seem like some kind of mystical shaman, third eye, lining up my chakras it's just, you can just kind of see where things are going, just in the conversation interaction, and realize I'm going to avoid that conversation because of it. He's also demonstrating a total lack of FE throughout this entire interview, and that's something to pay attention to. Um, you notice that he was mentioning he doesn't want to deal with the emotionality of it. Blah blah. I don't want to do that stuff. But you also notice in the interview, he at no point ever tries to be funny or charming or witty, pick up the pace, make Jack laugh, bond with none. He's very flat, very just telling it like it is, and he just kind of keeps that attitude and energy level going the entire time.
Is logic based.
Yes.
Kind of quiet. You can't really switch to a more persuasive way of debating. It doesn't actually feel to logic, but rather than to their emotions.
Yeah.
It's like people almost speak different language. It's like some people you can't really persuade logically. You have to almost appeal to their, yeah, you almost have to go into like sophistry and rhetoric for them to actually understand you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Total avoidance of the emotional, feely side of people and things.
And you say that when people do get to know you come across as quite profound.
Yeah. Like a lot of people say, like, I wouldn't expect you to think that way, or I wouldn't expect you to do what you do. So this one girl at my job, she asked me like if I had $1 billion, like what would I do with the money? And I pretty much just said, like I would start like sort of like a foundation for people who want to be more so into music or just for the arts, mainly music because I'm into music. And she just said like I never thought that you would say something like that. Like she had some stereotype about like men being not into art and whatnot, and you know,
So important points
Okay.
there as well
No.
that you're noticing, as I said, just he's never being charming or interesting. He's not trying to charm Jack or the audience or whoever's watching. He's just telling it like it is. He's kind of looking away. He's maintaining the same pace and tempo in his speech. It never really picks up or slows down. It's just right there, and it's kind of actually very slow. But um, when he speaks, the words he's using, he's very clear and to the point, giving you good examples, good explanation for things. Um, so it's showing you kind of a difference between, let's say, an IEI, a beta quadrant IEI versus an ILI, right? They both are NI dominant types, but the ILI is giving you much more clean, precise language and clean examples of what it is they're talking about. And that's probably the usage of TE or just higher T functions in general going on. The IEI is TE polar and has lower TI as a mobilizing function. So the IEIs typically when they're put on the spot and they're trying to answer questions like this, something that they haven't had time to prepare and lay a script out, they're kind of being pulled into the real world to respond to questions and things. The IEIs tend to be much slower, have a much harder time being clear. They're a lot more vague in their answers, and they could really trip over their tongue, so to speak, trying to answer questions and so on. They look much more uncomfortable.
You also said that when you're actually doing your job, you, because so monotonous, you go on autopilot and you say you think about the past and future.
yeah. Like I was thinking about this interview, like before I contacted you. I was thinking about like how this interview was going to go and the possible outcome of the interview.
Very
I
NI.
think about just a lot of it just kind of goes back and forth. Like sometimes I'll think about the past. I'll think about like people's behaviors. Like there's like patterns to people's behaviors that you can just kind of see how they're going to react to things, and it's pretty easy to predict
Right. Using past
how
and
they're going to
future events. How is this
react.
going to go? Is it worth my time? Is it not? How is
So
this
it's
going to
like
play
what you
out?
kind of do is you kind of reflect back on past
Yeah.
trends or like certain repeated occurrences in your memory.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
from that, you kind of piece together a projection of how
Mm-hmm.
things are likely to turn out later.
Yes.
So same thing, right? That's very NI usage, especially with more of a thinking types use of
What are
it.
your other hobbies and interests?
I'm really into music production. I've been doing that for about 11 years now.
So doing music, something
Kind
you
of
don't
really
normally
got
expect an
into it.
NT to do
I
by
used to be like a
stereotype, but
huge gamer. I could play like a whole bunch of video
he's doing it.
games. And then my cousin used to make instrumentals and whatnot. And I just like kind of asked him like how you do it. So he gave me a program and he showed me like the basics of how to operate the program, the sequencer and whatnot. And I kind of just became fully engulfed into it. Um, it's just kind of like you kind of listen to stuff on the radio and you just break it down and you just really understand it. And then you kind of use that information to come up with your own sort of style of doing things. Like you might take various different genres and whatnot and just kind of combine them to make something new. And then I noticed that I'm also more so into the engineering process, not necessarily, I like creating stuff too, but I'm more so in the engineering process as far as making things sound better.
Oh, so big time. So you're into music, but you're into more the technical, analytical, engineering side of it.
And I also got
rather than a more creative, holistic.
It's like sometimes you hear a sound in the radio or
just
a song, you know,
holistic side of things.
Creative, so right. You have to like break it down and then understand like how the sound is created, like
deconstructing it, engineering it, improving it.
Like in a sense, you have your oscillators and whatnot. And then you kind of figure out the oscillators and then you have to just like rebuild it to make sound. Like it's like certain effects you can hear it and then you can just know what how it fits all together.
Okay, and like I said,
with synth programming.
It's not an always absolute thing, but it's just a high probability thing that when you see high NI user, an NI dominant individual, they're often kind of in the slow pace of speaking. Again, the IEIs really struggle to be clear in their words, to find their words. They're very vague. They take time to figure out what they want to say. Here in the case of an ILI, also the slow, taking his time kind of pace. It's not quick, and
more so just analyzing.
Okay, hold on, I pause there. So they're just usually not quick, and in his case, again, the TE usage, TE coupled to the NI, when he does speak, he's clear. Lots of examples, very clear examples, not fumbling over his words and stuff like that. This is quite different from some types who are SE dominant or TE dominant, NEs. So a lot of these other extroverted types tend to be faster in their speech. They might bounce around. They might be quick. SE types, you often notice they can give very fast responses, very quick yes, no, this, that, you know. TE dominant types are also tend to be pretty quick and concise. Well, I don't know about concise. They're quick and they give you good explanations. They might talk a lot though. And your NE types are also pretty quick, but they bounce around a lot. So that's not something that's always 100%, but it's pretty common. So here we go into boxing.
Boxing, not being a boxer myself.
He's into boxing.
Or so into like boxers, like not like sluggers, like people are just swinging and whatnot, but like a boxer who sort of deconstructs their opponent. They like sort of like break it down in a real strategic manner, break their opponent down, like countering their attacks and whatnot.
So that's interesting.
He likes a technical side of things.
First of all, about the music,
thoughtful side.
So we can see that you see. It's right saying that you kind of take a very technical approach to the music.
Yeah, here we go.
So first of all, like first of you like you start with like this detailed like breaking it down to.
Okay.
It's similar to like the serial killers. You seem to have like an interest of like skirting around.
Yeah, I guess you like serial killers.
Almost physical aggression and looking at it.
I like horror movies, so let's see, a little bit, perhaps.
But again, so it's demonstrating the desire to think and analyze, admire the strategy being used, rather than getting into it and participating. So it's you can kind of see where NI is going to be very high in his functions, whereas SE, he's kind of valuing it a little bit, but it's quite low. He's not really that interested in getting into the thing itself.
So you yourself aren't so much a participator in the violence, so much as almost like an observer and an analyst of it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I like
pointing it
to
out.
analyze it. Like my mom, she thinks I'm weird because I rather analyze things rather than participate and directly in them. She says I'm
Right.
not
So
bored
some
or
interest
no
in
fun
SE or
because of that.
sensory, but it's very far down the stack,
That she's
the
bored
functional
and
stack.
actually participating, where I just rather sit back and observe and
Yeah.
analyze and critique.
It takes a lot of enjoyment of just thinking about it,
Okay,
just
so that
figuring out
goes
how
into
it
the next
works.
question, which is how are you a family?
A lot of SE dominant types are the reverse. They love to just participate, throw themselves into the action, and just kind of figure it out as they go along. Just feel their way through it by doing it. Sometimes they don't even bother to get to the deeper analysis.
I do better with my family members that are more talkative. People who are not talkative, like I'm not going to really start a conversation with them, whatnot. But like my brother and he lives in Florida now. He was I believe he's a ESTP, and he just talked to me. So I didn't really have to force a conversation with him. He would just keep talking to me. So um, in general, I get along with my family.
So he kind of appreciates other types who are more extroverted and talkative, who can get the conversation going, and then he can just sort of piggyback on what they're saying. He doesn't have to start it or generate it. Some other extroverted type can do it.
Scientific documentaries and whatnot.
So keeps going.
You seem to like have a requirement that conversations are big picture related, so that they have some sort of profoundness or have some sort of long-term importance in the world rather than the day-to-day specifics.
Again, very NI heavy.
Exactly.
Okay. And yes, and you often you seem to look down upon things that you find mundane.
Yeah.
Get very intuitive heavy overall, but probably also NI.
How are you with friends?
I have here.
So he's pretty good with that.
Yeah. No,
a bit.
What are you good at in life?
I'm very good at analyzing systems and sort of like breaking them down and then sort of literating them to people in more of a basic, sort of in layman's terms, so they can understand.
That's probably good
I'm
use of
also
TE.
very good at sort of seeing in between the lines, like what people are really saying. So it's just like certain ways, like how someone may type something, you can see that there's more than meets the eye to what they're really saying, or just how they say or how they say something or how they respond. So I remember like an example. Me and my friend, we were debating, and then he kind of just left off the debate by saying like, just believe what you want. And then a couple of days later, he said like something along the lines of, why can't you let people just believe what they want? And I was like, then that it kind of hit me like, so I'm getting to you. Like, it's no other reason why you would say this. Like
So,
there's no other reason that you would necessarily say this.
Better usage of feeling here.
Really like thinking about what you were saying, and it kind of like changed my opinion.
And it's more specifically FI, figuring out where he stands with people, where they are.
I see.
Kind of more of like an intuition and feeling combination going on.
Some undertones rather than overtones.
Yeah. Also, I don't. It's just
so we're getting some hints of
thinking.
Decent FI usage.
I can describe it to you, but since I could tell like you know what you're talking about, so you can further explain what it is that I'm exactly doing. So at
Something
my
else
job,
ILIs are probably going
we
to be doing too is just kind of figuring out who they're talking to, and is the person they're talking to know what they're talking about. ILIs probably might not want to spend much time dealing with people they feel like they don't really know what they're talking about. Again, it's a lack of FE, just wanting to get to the point and not waste their time.
like my like just for the sake of what I'm explaining, I'm gonna say that my job is facility A, and I'm gonna refer to facility B. So I work at facility A,
Okay, so
and pretty much
he's using
like
some deductive
everything
reasoning
clicked
example.
because like how I looked at it was, well,
Oh,
the
here.
regular associate, she must work at facility B. Now there's other facilities, but they're all like 30 minutes away. So being that facility B,
So already, not to get too long on this particular video, but just a bit that I've already shown. As I said, we've seen plenty of intuition, particularly NI, a focus on NI. Where are things going? Is this conversation going to be worth my time? Do I want to do that? Let me prepare for this interview. How's the interview going to go? Where, is it worth it, etc. We're seeing that he values a more pragmatic use of thinking, um, engineering, analytical thinking when it comes to music, when it comes to a lot of things in life. That's what he feels he's good at. And we can kind of see it in his description of things. He is right to the point, gives good examples of what he's talking about. He's not stumbling around with his words. So good usage of TE, especially, and overall logic. Mostly interested in rational, logical, analytical conversations. He wants to analyze things. He wants to analyze boxing rather than participate in it. He'd rather do a lot of analyzing and thinking of things rather than participating. So a high usage of NT stuff and high usage of NI specifically, again, combined with sort of the slower, monotonish, almost speech, and a complete and utter lack of FE as a vulnerable function. He talks about not really being interested in that. He'd rather avoid conversations a lot with people if it's not going to be rational. He wants to do a lot of analyzing of things, never really goes on about just having fun with people or emoting at all, working on the mood. And again, throughout this entire interview, this is him pretty much the entire time, looking kind of down, the slower speech, taking his time with the speech, never trying to be charming or funny or evoke anything from Jack or the audience. So it's just like FE vulnerable. So a lot of NI, a lot of NT, no FE. That pretty much already tells you what you need to know right there. ILI. And we got bits of a few other things, a little bit of valuing of SE, but doesn't really want to participate, but kind of appreciates it when there's other more talkative, more SE-ish people around him, like his brother, who can get the conversation going, get things going. It's almost like a suggestive function. He's mentioned some decent usage of FI when it comes to people and who he likes and understanding where they're coming from. So a decent usage of FI in there, which fits now for a possible mobilizing function. Right? And you see where kind of all these things are sort of stacking up. All the main elements that you're looking for are all starting to fall into place. And at that point, I mean, you just fill in the rest. You're dealing with an ILI. So again, a good example of an ILI and what that looks like. And you can kind of see this as a reference to compare them towards other types and especially LIIs, which is kind of their lookalike. Okay, so again, nice interview here from a long time ago. This is a very old one. It's like 8 years old, but a good one. Good interview that just kind of explains, shows you kind of what ILI looks like. Pretty clear and neat. So I think it's helpful for people trying to understand what an ILI looks like and how to spot one and why. This is a good example right here. So hopefully that helps. You learned some stuff there. Again, let me know what you think. Do you relate to this? Was there something off about it? Any other thoughts you had? Whatever. Go ahead and put in the comments, like and subscribe. And we'll see where we go for the next one.